Okay, this morning I want to talk to you a little bit about absenteeism. This is another important issue. Yesterday morning we talked to you about tardies and the importance of that. This morning I want to follow up with absenteeism. I'm not doing this to try to bore anybody, but I am doing it to make sure you understand the importance here, and we'll talk about that as we go through the video. This is just an extremely important issue here at Forest Hills and really any school. So first of all, let's start off much like we did on our tardy video. Who cares? Why is this important? Why do you need to know about tardies? Why do you need to care about tardies? First of all, it seems almost common sense, but we want to make the point that you really can't learn at your optimum level if you are not present in your classes. I mean, again, seems common sense, but I think there's a lot of you out there who believe, well, I can get my makeup work and I can still pass the class, and all that's probably true in some cases, but it's also true that if you're not there hearing the instruction, listening to your teachers, taking part in all the stuff that's going on in class, you're not getting the optimum level of education in that class. You're missing some parts of what's important there. Also, I put on here life skill. There's not any activity in life where you can just consistently be absent from it and be considered a success. In particular, we'd be talking about a job after high school. Really important that you understand that being present on your job consistently is an important life skill. You can't hold down a job, you can't keep a job if you are absent too much. So while school's not an exact equal activity to a job, it is a training ground, and we want to make sure that on this training ground here at Forest Hills, we are training you in the right way to understand that that absenteeism is a problem and will cost you later in life. Lastly, but not leastly, our teachers will tell you over and over and over that absenteeism is the largest factor in student failure at Forest Hills. When you look at student failures, there is almost always a direct correlation to students who have high absenteeism rates. So just understand that it's not just important because you have to learn while you're here. It's important because you miss assignments that need to be made up. It puts you behind. If you miss multiple classes, that's a lot of work that you have to get made up and turned in, and many students can't keep up when you're absent too often. Being absent here or there is one thing, but being consistently absent too often, puts you so far behind that you really cannot catch up and keep up. You miss tests, they need to be made up. You miss information, you miss other assignments. It just really becomes difficult. Know this, really important. That number 7 is really important to understand when it comes to absenteeism. You are allowed 7 unexcused absences. And notice how I put in parentheses here that it is your responsibility to keep up with that. Yes, we ask our teachers, and many teachers are very nice about helping you keep up with this, but understand that ultimately it is your responsibility to keep up with how many unexcused absences you have in class. It is not an excuse at the end to say, well, my teacher didn't tell me. That's not your teacher's job. You must keep up. Have a system in your notebook or in your phone. Keep a note, something in your phone or somewhere where you mark down every time you're absent from a class so you know how many you have and how many you may end up needing to recover in the end. Know this too. 15 minutes out of a particular class equals an absence. It is really important to understand this, particularly for first period. When you come in late from first period, you need to know that if you're more than 15 minutes late, you're going to be considered absent. Now, this is true of any class, but it happens more in first period. Notice how I put in parentheses here, and maybe cutting, because if it is second, third, or fourth period, you've already been on campus and you're more than 15 minutes late. Not only are you going to be considered absent, but your teacher is going to file a discipline from the office for cutting. So just remember that also. But 15 minutes late equals another absence. So you need to just know that. So then someone says, well, let's define what excused is, what's unexcused. So first of all, we'll talk about what is excused. Medical and dental, first of all, are considered excused. Anytime that you are at the doctor or at the dentist during school hours and it causes you to miss a period or more than one period or the entire day, you can bring in a note from your doctor or your dentist, and that will be considered excused and will not count as one of your 7 unexcused. Really important here. Notice how I said that you must bring in a note. You can't just say, I was at the doctor, I was at the dentist. You must bring in a note from your doctor or your dentist. All doctors and dentists know this. So the excuse that my doctor or dentist wouldn't give me a note is just not believable. All of them know that they must provide you if you ask, and many of them do require that you ask for a note, and you bring that in. We'll log that into the computer. I'll show you how that goes into the computer here in just a minute. But medical and dental are excused. Court or government proceedings are considered excused. So if you have to go to court for either yourself or a family member or something that you've been subpoenaed for in court, then obviously that is considered excused. And again, the bailiff in the courtroom will give you a note that says you were present in court that day, and you can bring that in. We'll log that into the computer as excused. Death in the immediate family. I want to make sure you understand the definition of immediate family. This is typically considered parents, grandparents, and siblings, although we are usually fairly lenient on this if you bring in documentation that you were at a funeral or that a family member passed away. Typically, the documentation for a death or immediate family, death in the immediate family, is an obituary or something from the ceremony itself. So please understand that death in the immediate family is excused and will not count as one of your 7. Again, as long as you bring in documentation. Word of mouth, verbal is not good enough. What's not excused? Really important. This is so important for students to understand. I know in the past, parent notes were accepted and those days were waived or excused. We do not accept parent notes as excused any longer. Reason is because we know that many parents will write notes just to get their students out from underneath the attendance policy. We are not going to allow that. You have 7 days for personal reasons. If you are truly sick and can't come to school one day, if you have an emergency and you can't come, that's why you have the 7 days. You certainly can bring a note from your parent. We will note that there's a parent note on file, but it will not excuse the absence. It will count as one of your 7. Also, notice here that I've put flimsy reasons. We periodically will have a student, in particular towards the end of the semester, who has gotten themselves into an attendance issue. They will come in late the first period, more than 15 minutes late. They'll come in the office and claim to have had car trouble or a flat tire or different reasons. And I just want to make sure you understand, while you may really have had a flat tire, you may really have had car trouble, again, you have 7 days to take care of those emergencies. That's what those 7 days are for. If you burn those 7 days up oversleeping and then have a car trouble, that is not our fault. That is your fault. You need to make sure that you understand how many you have, and car trouble, alarm clock not going off, whatever those flimsy reasons are, we will not accept those as excused. Okay? Now, recovery. Just want to talk to you for a few minutes about recovery. It is really important for you to understand that when you go over your 7 days, when you get past 7 days, you will need to recover the absence. I'm going to do that again so everybody understands the connection. More than 7 days, you must recover. There is no such thing as a waiver form for students any longer. You cannot request to have days waived. We will not do that. You must recover them. We are being very liberal with our recovery policy. We are giving you plenty of opportunity to recover. We are allowing you to recover within the number of days we offer as much as you like. So again, asking for a student waiver is not acceptable. You must recover anything over 7 unexcused absences. And again, I put in parentheses here for you that it is your responsibility. I'm doing that because, again, I don't want you to lay the blame at your teacher's feet if you end up with more than 7 and you don't recover them. You must recover your absences. You need to know, again, 2 things that's your responsibility. It's your responsibility to know how many you have, and it's your responsibility to know how many you need to recover and how many you've actually recovered. So important. We periodically will have students who will come in and say, well, I did 5, I thought that was enough. Not our job to know how many you need to recover. We will just figure it up at the end, and if you've not done enough, then you will receive FF, no credit in that class. Okay? So now, let's give an example of this. Let's talk about a specific student. I've pulled an attendance report here of a student. Okay, this is an actual attendance report from an actual student from first semester. I've blocked out the name in the class so we don't know who this is. Okay, and what I've done is I've counted up the number of unexcused absences. You see right here where it says unexcused. You see she's got some medical, dental appointment notes on file, so these are not unexcused. You can also see that she's got some unexcused lates on here. These are not absences. What we're counting is all these days that say unexcused absences. And when I count those up for this student, along with this one suspension that this student had, you can see that this student has 12 total unexcused absences in this class. I subtract 7 from that because 7 is what she's allowed, and this student needs to recover 5 days for their first block. 5 days for their first block. That's how many this student will need to recover. If this student passes this class, if this student has a 70 and wants that credit, they will need to do 5 recovery days to get that credit. Period. Not going to waive them. No excuses. Okay, that's 5. We continue on and we look at this student's second block class here, and you see that I've already done the figuring, got some medical notes, got 1 suspension, got some unexcused absences, total of 9 unexcused in this class. Okay, that means that this student, when we subtract the 7 that she's allowed, needs to recover 2. Okay, we look at the third block for this student. Same student, looking at third block. Again, I've done the figuring. I've counted up the number of unexcused absences for this student, and we've got a total of 9. I subtract the 7 again, 2 recovery days for third block in order to get credit. Again, if the student is passing with at least a 70. And last but not least, we look at the student's fourth block. Okay, and when we look at the student's fourth block and we count up the unexcused, we've got 13 here. Total of 6 recovery needed. Now you say, well, how are all these different? Well, this student has obviously come late a few times. The second and third are the same number, but also this student has obviously left early a few times, unexcused, and when they've come late, that's caused them to have more recoveries needed in first and fourth block. So what we do is we add up all those recovery blocks needed, and this student needs 15 total recovery days. If they are passing all 4 of their classes, they'll need to recover with 15. So that's what we're looking at. We have a spreadsheet. Anytime a student stays for recovery, their recovery days go into that spreadsheet. We keep a total number, a running total of days recovered. And if this student is passing all 4 classes, all 4, got a 70 in all 4, they will need 15 days in that spreadsheet in order to get credit. If they don't have 15 days in there, then they will begin to lose credit for some class. And we try to be reasonable about that and make sure that the classes that are most important to graduation are the ones that we give those students first. I hope you find this information enlightening and helpful, not only from a procedural standpoint of understanding the tardy policy and how we apply the tardy policy here at Forest Hills, but also so that you can understand why absenteeism is a problem, why being present is important. Teachers, take a few minutes to follow up on this. If you take questions, if those questions you can't answer them, write them down and get them back to us, and we'll get them answered for the students. But make sure you take a few minutes to reiterate this, not only with your homeroom right now, but throughout the day as you meet with your classes. Just make sure you all have your students understand how important it is to be present in your class. Talk to them specifically about what goes on in your class that makes absenteeism a problem. The assignments missed, those kinds of things. All right, that's all we have for you today on absenteeism.